Greetings to all of you. It's so good to have you here, for us to be together in this way.
Can everybody hear?
It's online.
Yeah.
I miss seeing you, and I miss hearing you sing on Sunday morning when I'm playing the organ, and I look forward to when we can never do that again. In the meantime, and I am with you on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. listening to and participating in our worship service, so we're together then. But I look forward to when we can all be together again in real life. We're going to spend some time this morning thinking about spirituals. It's always a good time to think about spirituals, but I thought the times we're in now, it couldn't be more timely than now to think about their history, what they meant to our enslaved Black brothers and sisters, and how they just helped them to survive, to endure and survive. You'll know a lot of these that we're going to talk about, and I'm only going to play little bits of them, and mostly talk with you about the history and some of the stories that could come from the spirituals. One of the things that you may know is there are many categories of spirituals. Someone has cataloged 36 different categories. There may be more. We're going to deal with 3 of them today: songs of the faith, escape songs, and songs of freedom. So first, songs of the faith. These songs came about when they became Christians. Many of the slaves became Christians and were baptized. They found it strange, to say the least, that sometimes the massa, they call the master, massa, who baptized them that morning was lashing them within an inch of their life that afternoon. But they learned to live with that. And so they drew from these songs of the faith as they were learning about Jesus and God and forgiveness and redemption and love. They showed this in their singing, in their songs, in the text of their songs. One of the ones they sang that you have heard, you may know it anyway, but it was sung in our benefit concert last October. Jesus is a rock in a weary land, a shelter in the time of storm, was sung by the Bowie State University Gospel Choir. They sang it for about 20 minutes, if you recall. It just went on and on. Everybody loved it. Anyway, this is a little bit of that. I'm not playing all of it, but that is one of the songs that meant a lot to them. Another one, that's from the African American Heritage Hymnal. We don't have that hymnal. It's a good one, but we do have Leave Us, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And the next 2 are from the hymnal Leave Us that we have in our service. I want Jesus to walk with me and give me Jesus. Those 2 really show how close they want to be with Jesus. They actually, when they sang the word I, they weren't just referring to themselves. That was a kind of a collective consciousness, a communitarian word. It was really, they were referring to all of their brothers and sisters there in the plantation. And so I really meant all of them, and they really were thinking of themselves as nothing more than property of those who owned them. Going through the auction block was so severe. They often were stripped naked, and they were allowed to be examined by the person who was going to buy them there in public. They were sold. Often the husbands and wives were separated, never to see each other again. There's so many stories that it just breaks your heart. One mother watched 5 of her children being sold to 5 different owners, and they didn't even allow 2 of them to go together. So they never saw each other again. So they became, in the plantation, they ended up in a family amongst themselves, and they ministered to each other. Occasionally there were some who had one relative with them, but sometimes nobody. So they had just unbearable, unspeakable suffering. Another one that that you may know. I think I mentioned Give Me Jesus, I Want Jesus to Walk With Me. I played that, an arrangement of that for Postlude last Sunday. And it supposedly was sung today in the service. I noticed that it was in the lineup, unless it got changed. We sang it, we're going to sing it Sunday. That's a beautiful one as well. One that you may not know that's also in Leave Us is Done Made My Vow to the Lord, which is actually like an affirmation of faith. Done made my vow to the Lord, and I never will turn back. I will go. I shall go to see what the end will be. The end for them was either escaping or dying and going to be with God. Many of them just longed to die and get out of that and be with God. And so that's what those were their two escapes. This one is very, very strong. If you ever have a chance to hear Sweet Honey in the Rocks sing this, it is just powerful. It knocks you right off your socks. Very strong. Just back out to the Lord. Another one that I really like a lot is I've been buked and I've been scorned. Buked was their word for rebuked. A lot of these are in dialect, and sometimes they're sung in dialect and sometimes they're sung just in regular English. So their English here was I've been rebuked and I've been scorned. But they sing it, I've been buked and I've been scorned. I've been talked about, sure as you're born. But then the last stanza of this is in the dialect, it's ain't gonna let my religion down, which is ain't gonna let my religion down. I'm not gonna let it go. That was another one that was like another affirmation of faith. And this is another powerful one. Here it is. Another one in Leave Us is, oh, fix me. Oh, Jesus, fix me. Fix me for my long white robe. Fix me for my starry crown. Fix me for my dying bed. Those are all different stanzas for oh, fix me. Two from the African American Heritage Hymnal that we don't have that we sing, but you might know it, is in that great getting up morning, fare ye well, fare ye well. In that great getting up morning, fare ye well. They sing it several times. They often repeated it a lot, so it would be easy for everybody to learn. And then they'd sing in the verse, there's a better day a coming, fare ye well, fare ye well. There's a better day a coming, and they talk about there'll be no more dying, and they just keep referring to when things will get better for them. They're hoping. Here's this one. Here it is. There's more to all of them. I'm just playing a little snip so you can hear it. Another one that you may know from the 60s, that one word got changed in it. It's woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. And we sang it in the 60s during Civil Rights Days. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. And we think they sang it with those words too. It probably depended on what they were using it for. It ends, each one stanza ends with hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. It's another strong one. is everything from that. I want to read something for you, but that's all the spirituals that we're going to deal with in that section. But I want to read something to you from this book in their own words, which my colleague and friend Eileen Gunther wrote, which is a history of spirituals, that if you're interested, you might want to get this book. It's one of the best that's out. It's talking about, so you'll understand a little bit better their terminology. It's the biblical code for their language. And this is what this book has to say about it. The unlocking of the biblical, quote, biblical code is fairly obvious. Egypt, Babylon, or hell reference the land they were in, the plantation they were on, or even more specifically, being sold south. Pharaoh or Satan, they were talking about the slave owner when the songs had those names in them. They also just used those because they couldn't use what they really wanted to, because they were singing with the master standing right there. The patrollers, who were the people who watched them in the fields and probably they were the ones who punished them a lot. That was Pharaoh's army when they'd sing about that. Jesus, or King Jesus, referred to anyone who had the slaves' interest at heart. They were singing about Jesus, but also people who befriended them when they were trying to escape. Obtaining freedom was crossing over the Jordan River. They referred to that a lot, but it was probably actually a reference to the Ohio River. And the Promised Land might refer to Africa, where they'd like to go back if they could. The North, Canada, where some of them escaped to, Canaan or heaven. So that's some of the language that you will hear in these songs as they presented them. This is the last part of this first section, the songs of faith, and now we'll do the escape songs.
Okay, Carol, you have the floor. So if anybody wants to ask Carol any questions, have at it.
Carol, Maureen, where did the melodies come from? Who wrote the melodies?
We don't even know who wrote all the melodies. They came out of many people just singing them, you know. Because when you look at the person responsible for the text or the music, it usually just says one of several things. Sometimes it says traditional spiritual, it can say African American spiritual, it can say mostly just those things. Yeah.
I wanted to say that I've Been Buked and I've Been Scorned was one of the featured dances in Revelations by the Alvin Ailey dancers, the very famous piece that they did. It's this beautiful dance.
It is. It is. We're going to talk about them in I think which section that's in, I'm not sure. Another one that they do that is absolutely gorgeous is Wade in the Water.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. Any more questions?
This is not a question, but because my folks have come through this tradition, and just listening to what you were saying, you know, it's making me want to cry. It's so sad to me. I'm hoping that people can put themselves in the shoes of these slaves who came from another country and turned into furniture.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've heard Carol's talk, so I can talk ahead, but they didn't know English. So not only were they in a strange country, but they had to adapt very, very quickly and learn the language quickly. Otherwise, it was extremely harmful for them.
I cry. I want to say this. I cry often I cried when I was working on this program, and the words to these, and I think the next section is probably the one that you're going to cry the most in, dear heart, because these are about escape songs. And this shows just how smart and clever they were to join up with their songs of faith the white masters thought they were just singing about their faith, and they were a double entendre, but they were also escape songs, and they would sing them through the fields. I talk about that in the next section. But they just, aside from being worked literally to death, they had their whole families torn apart. I mean, can we even imagine what that would have been like to live with? So I thank you for what you said. It's absolutely true. And I think in this time we're in right now, it's even more important that we pay attention to where our Black brothers and sisters have come from and what they had to endure and what we have done to them.
Thank you, Carol.
That's the end for me.
The next section will be on escape songs. And all of these would be much more effective if they were being sung. And I'm hoping that in the months to come, we might be able to bring on my colleague and friend, Irvin Peterson, who would be singing them for us today if he could, but he was not able to be with us today, but he does want to do that. And he's an incredible tenor. You heard him play flute in the benefit concert. You may remember that. And I think if there's a spot for him in the forum for us to do that together in the year ahead, maybe we can come back and do this with him. One of the most famous escape songs, now these served as songs of faith as well as escape songs. And that's how they fooled the masters, the masses, as they call them. They would sing them in the fields. They'd sing them down the fields. So the word passed along that tonight we're trying to attempt an escape. One of the most well-known ones was Steal Away to Jesus. And the white masters thought that they were just singing about going off to pray to Jesus and they're stealing away. But it was, they were doing that too, but also it ends with, I ain't got long to stay here. And they surely meant they were not going to stay there any longer than they had to. So this one has been attributed to Nat Turner, who may or may not have written it, but the research shows that he probably did, right here in Virginia. So this one is really one of the chief getaway songs. Steal Away. They would sing them all through the day. They would sing them if they were allowed to at night in their cabins or when they would let them gather. They sometimes had trouble getting together. They would sometimes they would go down near the river after they'd became Christians and would have their own service. They were allowed to go to sit behind a partition in the church of the white people or on the back rows, but sometimes they weren't even allowed to come in there. So they really liked to have their own service, but they didn't like them to do that either. So when they could, they would slip away down by the river where some of them felt called to preach. And so they'd have preaching and singing and praying down by the river where the white masters couldn't hear them. Another one that was really meaningful to them was King Jesus is a-Listening. King Jesus is listening all day long to hear some sinner pray, but in one of the verses it talks about the gospel trains a coming, and the words are, it's a rumbling through the land, but I hear them wheels a humming, get ready to board that train. And when they sang that, when they knew a train was coming through, they would sing that through the day and down through the fields, and that would mean tonight's the night. We're getting the heck out of here. This is King Jesus is a-Listening. And then it goes on about the gospel train. So that was when they had different modes of escape. They would most often go on foot, but sometimes there was a boat, sometimes a train. One that they sang a lot was, "Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel, and why not a every man?" Delivering Daniel from the lion's den. And they go on to talk about Jonah from the belly of the whale, the Hebrew children from the fiery furnace, and why not every man? One of the verses in that one, "I set my foot on the gospel ship, and the ship began to sail. It landed me over on Canaan shore, and I'll never come back again, no more. I'll never come back no more." Now, Canaan was the north, and they certainly weren't going to come back. So that was all the code language in that one. "Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel?" I'll play a little bit of that one. And it goes on. That's a long one. Now, a favorite is "Wade in the Water." Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water, God's are going to trouble the water. When they sang that, that meant they were going by foot. And they were cautioning them to get in the water as soon as they could, because the dogs would lose the scent when they got in the water. So that was the word to them on that day when that was the song, "Wade in the Water." This song, "Wade in the Water," is used by the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, the famous Black African-American company, that they do one of their hallmark pieces is Revelations. And this is one of the spirituals they use in that, where there's just billowing white silky cloths on the stage, and they're going with white umbrellas, and the women are wearing white flowing dresses, and they're singing "Wade in the Water." It's just unbelievable. Here's "Wade in the Water." And there's more. I'm just playing a little bit of it for you to hear. I'm sure you all know "Michael Rowed the Boat Ashore." You probably sang that around the campfire when you were a kid. Hallelujah. That meant Michael was rowing that night. You better get down to the river, because that was going to be another escape attempt with Michael. One that was really popular, but they could only use it so often, was "Follow the Drinking Gourd." The gourds they drank from resembled the Big Dipper in the sky. So on the nights when the Big Dipper was visible, probably meant it was a starry night, and that one part of that pointed toward the north. So they would say, "Follow the drinking gourd." That meant follow the way you're seeing the Big Dipper is pointing toward the north. And that particular song gave specific directions for each time for where the escape was headed that time. They could be very clear about it. I guess they had to sing that part when there were no white people around to hear it. Two that you know well that I'm not going to play, but you know them: "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot." That talks about the gospel trains are coming. That would be when they would be going by train that night. "Go Down Moses." The last stanza to "Go Down Moses," "Way down in Egypt's land, let my people go," is, "Oh, let us all from bondage flee, let my people go. And let us all in Christ be free, let my people go." That was one. That was another. They were singing the faith, but they were also singing to alert their friends that this was a night we're going to get the heck out of here. the chief, the most well-known conductor for the Underground Railroad, which was the system for us helping slaves escape, as you probably know, was Harriet Tubman. She helped hundreds of people escape. And she escaped with two of her brothers from a plantation in Maryland and went, they started on up north, and the two brothers decided they wanted to go back to the plantation. And she went back with them and got them settled again. I don't know what they had to endure, but, and then she escaped again on her own, Harriet Tubman, and went up north, and then just kept coming down again and again and again. She got her whole family out. She got hundreds of slaves freed. Frederick Douglass said he could not say enough about her. She was called a conductor. There were many conductors who helped slaves escape, but she was probably the most outstanding and the most famous one. She would walk amongst the cabins at night when she was there, giving them singing, giving them directions of what to do. So their singing just saved their lives, literally, but it certainly saved their spirits. These songs that you're hearing were sung in the fields a cappella, you know, no instruments. Maybe, I don't think they had any instruments. Fisk University, which is a very good African-American school with a very strong music department, was the first school or place to publish, write down these songs and publish some of them. Also Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University, and Tuskegee Institute. And because they were just sung with, you know, they probably harmonized them, but these are arrangements that you're hearing me play. And an arrangement can be done anyway. So this is just one way of hearing it. But they are the ones who brought them out so that people finally began to hear what had never been written down before. Somebody else I want to read from Eileen's book, the scholar Benjamin Mays wrote his thoughts about spirituals. These songs are the expressions of the restriction and dominations which their creators experienced in the world about them. They represent the soul, S-O-U-L hyphen, life of the people. They embody the joy and sorrow, the hope and despair, the pathos and aspiration of the newly transplanted people. And through them, the race was able to endure suffering and survive. Clearly, the Negro spirituals are not songs of hate. They are not songs of revenge. They are songs neither of war nor of conquest. They are songs of the soil and of the soul. That's Benjamin Mays. And I think that's all we're going to talk about songs, escape songs. But that is probably one of the most important parts of spirituals, is the songs they used to really fool the white masters. They were religious, and of their faith, but they doubled as escape songs.
Okay, any thoughts?
Carol, Betsy, is there any indication in your reading that the masters ever figured out what the songs were saying?
No one has ever said anything about that I know of. I'm sure some of them probably did. I think they had to be careful. That's why they sang all day, and they sang a lot of the same songs on a regular basis, because if they had just sung Steal Away when they were going to get away that night, if they had half a brain, they could have figured it out. You know, these people were very intelligent, and they would probably add something to it on the day they knew that was going to be the night they were going to try to get out. But they couldn't. In fact, the Harriet Tubman, some things I've read about her, said that she would be careful to be sure no one was around who would hear any specifics, but she would add specifics to her songs when it was an escape night. So they did that. That's the most I've heard about specifics.
There's a fabulous movie which I watched and walked out can't remember, named Harriet about,
Yes, yes,
oh, it's terrific.
yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add quickly is that they didn't give credit for any intelligence coming from these people. So I don't think they tried to see whether there was any code. They just felt they were inferior in every way.
Yeah, true.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Pam.
hey,
Hi. Just wanted to say that it's such a blessing, this awesome forum. And maybe some of you are familiar with the singer Eva Cassidy. She was born in Oxon Hill, Maryland, grew up in Bowie, Maryland. Yes, Carol. And I've heard CDs, right? We do too. But if any of you, have time, if you went on youtube.com and just put in Eva Cassidy, Walk in the Water, Eva Cassidy, there's another one, I'm trying to remember what it is. It's called People Get Ready. They're tremendous renditions of these awesome spirituals. She does it with such a heartfelt, loving way, her singing. I also wanted to briefly share that I didn't realize this, but Clem and I saw a special on the PBS station recently. Maybe some of you saw it. It was talking about the history of slavery in England, in the United Kingdom. And from that special, I realized that the slavery in the United States was a so-called, quote-unquote, heritage in the negative sense from the British. And talked in this PBS special how England had reparations when slavery was abolished several decades before it was abolished in the United States. But the reparations was not for the victims. It was for the slave owners to the tune of almost $100 billion in today's money. They were paid off at the time when slavery was being abolished, which is just an amazing, horrible thing. So I think that this country can dig up some money for reparations. Anyhow, I'll get off my soapbox. I just love this musical tribute to what the people went through in slavery. So thanks again for listening.
Thank you, Pam. This is Judy. I just wanted to make a comment about the Bible's role in the development of spirituals. So it would appear that Bibles were made available to the slaves because so many of the references are to stories in the Bible. I'm just curious.
Yes.
well, they did go to the services.
They were allowed to go to, when they became Christians, they sat behind a partition in the church, or they sometimes were allowed to sit on the back rows. And of course, if you go to years and years of going to church, you hear these stories about David and Daniel in the lion's den and all of these, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho or whatever. You hear those stories told. So they really drew from hearing the sermons they heard more than they did reading the Bible. But those who could read, some of the white masters were much kinder.
The last section, the third section, is songs of freedom and some resistance. One that I'm sure you know well is "Oh Freedom." This was sung a lot in the 60s during the civil rights era. Oh freedom over me, and before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. I'll play you this. Another one was I Shall Not Be Moved. Lord, help me to hold out. One of my favorites is Great Day. That's in our Leave Us, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Great Day, the righteous marching. Great day, God's going to build up Zion's walls. I have to tell you a little story about this one. Daniel Moe was a very well-respected composer and choral conductor in this country. He died some years ago. But he was at Oberlin College for 20 years, and he closed every choral concert with Great Day. My son went to Oberlin and sang under him, and it is something to hear any time he was there, the Oberlin College choir sing Great Day. Oberlin College, you may know, I'm sure many of you know this, was the first college in the United States to open its doors to African American students. And when you walk on the campus, it's like walking into the UN. It's the most diverse student body I've ever seen. And I have that association with Oberlin. But Great Day is an incredible spiritual. Listen to this. Great Day, the righteous march. It's a wonderful one. Another one is, I think we mentioned Woke Up This Morning with My Mind Stayed on Freedom, and they also changed it to Justice. Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around. Hold On. They are from the African American Heritage Hymnal. Hold On, they referred to the plow. Hold on, because they used that in the fields, of course. But keep your hand on the plow, hold on. And that was just an encouragement to each other to not give up, to keep persevering. Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world is another one. Soon and very soon, that's in Leave Us. Go Down Moses, I mentioned that, is in Leave Us. Two that I want to mention that are not songs of freedom, they're kind of songs of despair and suffering, and they're kind of in a category by themselves, although there were others like this, but two that you would know would be Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. But it does have a qualifying factor. It says, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows but Jesus. So they had that faith that Jesus was with them and understood them and was seeing them through. Another one that has no redeeming feature, it seems, it's just pure sadness, is Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child, a long way from home. Because that's what a lot of them were, a motherless child. Another one, All of My Trials or All of My Troubles Will Soon Be Over. Harry Belafonte, back in the late 50s, 60s, recorded that in his Carnegie Hall concert, and I used to play it on a big LP. I remember working at a sailing camp in the summer during college years, and I just played that and played it and played it. All my trials soon be over. That was another one that helped them through, singing about freedom, getting free. I want to close with one more quote. This one is from Paul Robeson, the famous bass. He said this about spirituals. The power of spirit that our people have is intangible, but it is a great force that must be unleashed in the struggles of today. A spirit of steadfast determination, exaltation in the face of trials. It is the very soul of our people that has been formed through the long and weary years of our march toward freedom. It is the deathless spirit of the great ones who have led our people in the past. Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and all the others. Sojourner Truth is another one, of course. And of course, the missions who kept, quote, inching along, end quote. That spirit lives in our people's songs, in the sublime grandeur of Deep River, in the driving power of Jacob's Ladder, in the militancy of Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho, and in the poignant beauty of all our spirituals. This was just barely scraping the surface on spirituals, just a handful. But I hope it's whetted your appetite a little bit to learn more about them, especially ones you don't know so well. And I hope we can come back with urban singing and do this again in the year or next year or two or sometime when there's time, so you can hear him sing them, because that will just be a wonderful blessing if we can do that. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to take questions now if you have some questions. Thank you.
Other questions?
I hope that'll happen, that we'll get her on the $20 bill. And, you know, as Carol was playing those spirituals, as we all know, whenever the spirituals are sung or played, they're very deep with emotion. They're a special type of hymn, aren't they? In years past, when I would play my violin in church, I used to love to play Let Us Break Bread Together and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And even the person who's doing the playing, it just fills their bones and the marrow of their being, you know, that soulfulness. And I also wanted to just, I keep remembering what Rev Guimond said in his Father's Day sermon. It's such a short phrase, but it keeps ringing in my ears when he says near the end, he says, it's not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. This is boldness. And thank Carol for such a wonderful morning with this inspiring time.
Yeah. I want to say just one quick thing. I know we have to go. John Lewis's death has really, I know, hit us all very hard.
Yes.
And we're thinking about him a lot right now.
Amen.
The music that our Black brothers and sisters brought to us during the worst days, and we brought them here. We made this happen. Our ancestors made this happen. It can be a healing force. It was a healing force for them. We've seen it be a healing force throughout our lives. I think it's a healing force right now for us. The power of music is incredible. You heard, you know, being moved to tears. Music can move us to tears. It can lift us up. So listen to good music, whatever kind of music you like. WETA here, 90.9 FM or 91.9 Baltimore, play beautiful music. Occasionally they play spirituals or good jazz or whatever, because some of the best jazz is by our Black brothers and sisters. Remember, there was something I wanted to tell you about Harriet Tubman. March the 10th has been named Harriet Tubman Day. I don't know if you know that or not, but you might mark.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Dick.Hank you, Carol. Thank you
The Harriet Tubman Museum is in Cambridge, Maryland.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Robert.
Robert.
Well, thank you, Carol. I really appreciate it. And just let me know when your friend's able to sing, and we'll just let him come sing to us. Won't that be cool?
You know, it would be wonderful. His house burned down. He's still dealing with that. But
Oh my gosh.
He wants to do it.
Let's see. All these pandemics and your house burns down. This is not good.